When you partner with AXON, you immediately gain access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. We carry all major brands and sizes of tires and wheels. We specialize in large diameter wheels for large equipment. We have one of the largest OEM replacement wheel inventories in North America. Known for extreme flotation setups, duals, and triples, we have wheels for all makes and models of tractors, sprayers, combines, and grain carts. If we don't have the wheel in stock, we'll custom build, sandblast, and paint in-house. There isn't a more vast inventory in North America dedicated to helping dealers move more iron. With facilities on the West Coast and in the heart of the Midwest, leverage our 230,000 square feet of indoor inventory to solve any problem a grower may have. Move more iron with AXON.
Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. I have the great folks from AXON Tire, and I got Paige Seek here with us. Paige, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Casey. How are you?
No, I can't complain any, Paige. How things up there in the great northern God's country of black soil up there where you're at?
Honestly, they're pretty good. We had a nice day today. It was like sunny and 70 by noon. But we're getting a little bit of rain moving in. But I mean, I can't complain. It's not 6 inches of snow, so I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, we haven't. We're lucky that we haven't had that. April typically is one of our more snowy months, and we haven't had that. Knock on wood. I mean, we've still got a couple days to go, but
yeah,
I really we haven't had that. So
yeah. I hope I can jinx us. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated.
I'm knocking on wood though, so I'm not going to jinx anybody. So that's the good part there. Paige, you've been busy April here for you guys. So talk a little bit about what you have going on at AXON Tire right now.
Yeah. So on the marketing side of things, we've just been working on our family of companies brand that we just launched. So a lot of website development. We launched what's called CFI Solutions, which it goes CFI Solutions, and then we have AXON, and then CFI Tire Service, which is just our Iowa business. And then we also have our CFI Tire and Wheel, which is our wholesale business. So we basically just made a family overall arching brand of all three of those companies. Marketing team really has just been working on that. Going into May, I think we're going to work on some digital strategies with all three of those teams. So it's not going to get any less busy, but it's been really good. So we're excited.
Keeps you out of trouble that way, for
yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
Right on. All right. Well, who do we have with us today?
We have Mr. Mike Diener, who is joining us, and he is our outside client advisor for the Northeast Territory. And then we also have Clint Berardi, who was central, but now moving to Iowa and Illinois because those are two very busy states. So he's covering those, and that's who we have.
Right on. Well, Mike and Clint, how you guys been, man? Been a little bit since we had a chance to talk.
Good, Casey. Good to see you.
Good, man. Good. Well, let's we had a podcast before the podcast here, so we can kind of run that down. But we had a few things we were bouncing around, and I love talking about tracks. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. We kind of hit on that a little bit with a lot of different stuff when you start looking at machine performance, availability, all those different things that come into play when you start playing with tracks. So, Clint, start with you first in your area, covering Iowa and Illinois. Track machines have gotten more popular, especially when you start looking at the 4-track system that are out there, whether it's a Deere 9RX, 8RX, or whether you're looking at a Case quad track or something like that, or even those half-track things that you're looking with New Holland and Case that they've got going on. You start looking at those systems. As you look at those systems out there now and the customers you're dealing with, what are some of the things you're hearing about as far as supply goes?
Well, that's a lot packaged in that, Casey. I'll start with
one big question.
There you go. In my area, Iowa and Illinois, I mean, you've got, as far as the track machine coverage, north central Iowa, like we talked earlier, probably 90% tracks in some areas up there, both tillage and planting tractor setups. But you don't have to go very far south and you start seeing it get more to probably a 50-50 mix. And then as you get southern Iowa, mostly probably the opposite of, less track machines.
Yeah.
And then in Illinois, I mean, it really, for being mostly flat, it's quite a mix. I don't know if they have, I'm sure some counties and areas would have a lot higher track usage rate than others, but it really is, it's an interesting thing to watch because different soil types, different, the way guys look at compaction and performance in the field, things. There's no right or wrong way, I don't think, to do it. It's really the application and what guys like. And while we're on the track thing, it was, I'm just thinking of all the big construction guys that we've got in our area, and the last 15 years, the amount of quad tracks or 4-track rubber track machines that you're seeing doing scraping and construction application has definitely gone up, whether it's a cost per hour thing or a speed thing. I'm sure it's some of both, but it's been an interesting ride in the track world the last 10 years. And
Yep. So Mike, when your area, especially, you get up to like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and those areas where field conditions aren't necessarily as great as they could be in some other places in the spring, and you start looking at some of the tillage applications and those kind of things. Track machines are even a bigger deal up in your neck of the woods.
We have a really good mix, especially in Ohio as well. It's like you say, some of the soil conditions aren't as great, especially in central Wisconsin. It's quite soupy, and quite a few of them. Yeah, I'd say it's closer, probably more to 75%. There seems to be there's a lot of smaller fields, so roading is a big issue.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I've been noticing a lot here, probably in the last 3 years, where I've really noticed more than anything, is the amount of track applications that are getting put on implements. Whether you're looking at grain carts or whether you're looking at planters, whatever that is, a lot more of those track applications are getting put on a lot of things. I love track machines. It's like my favorite thing on the planet to see track machines out in the field, and you see a track machine pulling a 2,000 bushel grain cart with tracks on it too. That's even the coolest thing on the planet on top of that. So what are you seeing there? Even some guys are just, all their tractors are wheeled. You're starting to see more track applications on grain carts, especially. So Clint, in your area where, we're talking a bigger kind of cross section of corn and soybeans than anywhere else on the planet. So, are you seeing some of that pop up there where you're starting to see more track grain carts and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say there's no question that increasing in popularity. I was talking to a dealer a few weeks back now, and he told me that a big new track grain cart's over $200,000 now.
Yeah, they're expensive.
I remember when $100,000 grain cart was a big deal.
Yep.
There's a reason. The guys are paying that. They're seeing the results, the capacity. You look at some of these new combines, we're starting to see more X9s in Iowa and Illinois, especially, the capacity they've got to keep up and handle it, and, the workload. And so, I would agree that, we haven't seen it probably as much on planters, although there are some out there. Some of the early tracks had some issues with road speed, and they had to slow them down quite a bit. So if they get that figured out, I'm sure we'll probably continue to see some of that. And then you're going to see guys that have tried it and it didn't really work for them, and they're sticking to tires. So
Yep. It's another thing, Mike, I get in your area too, where I see a lot more of the stuff being sold than anywhere else, is the track applications on combines, where you're starting to see that instead of having the big duals on the front, they'll have some, 30-inch or a 36-inch track system on the front of that. Again, you look at some of the weights of some of these machines, and you're starting to really kind of shake your head a little bit. You got an X9 combine out there fully loaded with with a head on the front and 450 bushels of corn in it, you got almost 100,000 pound machine, if not over 100,000 pound machine. Those tracks start to make a lot more sense when you start looking at compaction, footprint, slippage, all the stuff that come into play there. So I guess, what are you seeing on that front in your area?
We don't see a huge ton of those really large combines, but there is a few out there and with the tracks that spreading that weight out does really help.
Yeah. Makes a difference. Yeah. So Clint, you seeing something similar to that in your area with the combines?
Yeah. Again, it's a pretty good mix. I mean, you have guys that would prefer a track. I think it's probably about over $100,000 upgrade for a track with a combine now. So it's a substantial price tag. So if the guys, have weighed that and, are going and they're okay with that, and the guys that are track guys generally will pay that to have it. But I would say we still, as far as combines alone, would probably have a larger mix still of wheel machines. But yeah, definitely a number of track machines out there.
The combine duals is another thing that you get. You see some of the combine dual situations that's always been there, but it feels like to me there's a little bit more thought process of maybe going over to a bigger single and going down like a 900 LSW or something like that, and trying to, instead of putting on duals, maybe going down to one bigger tire. And you see some 1200s out there, not as often as you would see, but you start a lot more low sidewall tire kind of fall into that combine dual situation. So I guess, Clint, when you're looking at that, were you seeing that come into play, and are you having those kind of conversations with folks?
Yeah. The reason I think you're starting to see that is, a lot of guys, the dual thing was big 15, 20 years ago, because you could still get a dual down a 30-inch row. You could
Right.
put a 20.8 or a 520.
Yep.
But with the size of the machines now, being able to carry that weight, there's less tire options out there in that narrower row width to handle the weight capacity. So you've seen a larger dual come out, and then you're back to running over the row. So then guys say, well, if I'm running over the row, can I do it with a single 1250?
Right.
And some guys, that's it, depending on like hill ground. We see guys, a lot of guys like to stick with the duals for the extra stability. But then you get into Western Iowa and then the Hillco machines, and they like to run the 1250 singles again. So it's kind of all over. I wish there was a method to figuring it out, or to stay ahead of it. But it really comes back to preference. But yeah.
Yep. So Mike, when you're looking at that flotation wise, I mean, you're looking at duals on combines, you're looking at singles, like is there any one of those that are gaining ground more than the other, or is it still pretty much a dualed up combine is kind of the norm?
Dualed up combine is pretty much the norm. Some of the areas are covered they run pretty narrow, so they'll run a set of narrow duals. Yeah. We have a couple different options on that. To get behind some of the smaller heads as well. But when a lot of the guys, some of the hills there on the side of the hills of, they like the stability of a dual.
Yep, that's where a lot of guys and I grew up in Kansas, so there's some pretty flat places out there, but there's a lot of hilly country too, where you can get that, and it always kind of comes back to I wouldn't mind just running one single, but the stability issue that you talk to a lot of guys about, and that's what they're running into, is that I like the stability side of it.
When it gets wet as well, the duals tend to stick a little bit better to the hillside.
Yeah.
As well.
Yep. We were talking about sprayers. We got sprayer EOPs opening up here a month earlier than normal. But looking at that, flotation tires are always a big part of that sprayer conversation. Clint, as you look at that right now, I mean, what are you seeing with sprayer floats? Because some of these sprayers now are getting to be no joke. I mean, you're talking about some, 50, 60,000 pound machines running around out there, fully loaded. That's a different tire conversation than what we've had in the past.
Yes, for sure. That'll run 40 miles an hour down the road and and 20 mile an hour in the field.
Yep.
So yeah, it is. It's been an interesting thing. Been a lot of changes on pretty much all major manufacturers. They redesigned the legs, redesigned hubs. We've had a number of calls this spring already. The guys that had a 2-year-old Heggie tried to, keep their old floats because the bolt pattern was the same, and that they went to put the old ones on the new machine and it didn't work. So I would encourage listeners, if you're looking at trading machines, do your research on, what the hubs and the differences that have happened in the last couple of years. And we're seeing a trend, I guess, going to larger diameter floats. The 650, 6538 used to be kind of the go-to for everybody on the mid-sized machines. And I think there's only a couple of manufacturers now, maybe some more, but Deere, the mid-sized Deeres, and the Miller are pretty much the two normal, I guess, or regular that you would still see a 650 use. Everyone else has gone to a 46-inch requirement. So, there's been a lot of changes. And with that, a set of floats that you used to pay 10, 11, 12,000 for, you go to the 46-inch are well over 20,000 now. Yeah. So double the price. And
about a set of 800s for a guy, and not because that's what we wanted, because that was what was available. And it was a 616R that they got put on, and I was like, man, this is going to look like freaking Bigfoot out there with these. And actually, it looked pretty good. I mean, the size of the machine, the size of the tires kind of went together, and I was shocked when they got put on there that it didn't look like some just crazy, cartoonish type of deal. But it was amazing how the size of the machine, the size of the tires, how they came together. But to be honest with you, I think I got some VF tires, 800 VF tires that went on them, and it really made a world of difference on how that machine operated in the field. Because I think if I'd have went with just regular 800s and not the VF or even an IF situation, that it would have made a huge difference. And I tell you what, man, having that conversation with guys about IF versus VF versus just standard tire, it's amazing how when you start having that conversation of, I'm not paying, an extra $15,000 to get IF tires or VF tires or whatever it is. I'm like, well, you should really think about it. And you start going through those things and showing studies and those kind of things. And it's amazing how fast that conversation goes from you're crazy to, well, I guess you're kind of making some sense. And talk a little bit about that. Clint or Mike, either one of you, just kind of what success you're having with that conversation when you start talking about tire technology.
You can go ahead, Mike, if you want.
Yeah. As we all know that, the old bias tire, and then it went to the radials, and then it was kind of stalled out for quite some time for technology. And then the IF and VF, it's just, it's actually amazing the advantages for the VF, spreading out that compaction. And then as well, you can haul a lot more weight, and there's a lot more stability, especially in the sprayer. You don't have that wobble or anything like that. It's a big difference, especially that, running the correct air pressure is one of the bigger things.
Yep. Especially some of these machines now that they're coming with inflation systems on them, where you can take the air pressure down when you're in the field working and bring it back up when you're going down the road to have a better drive and like you said, more weight, and you can do a lot more things with it. So tire technology thing is getting to be a bigger deal. And when I order tires from the factory, I always try to order an IF or a VF tire, just because I think it gives you so much more options of how your machine can operate in the field, because you're doing a lot more. Like you said, if the conditions get a little mucky of sort, and you need to let some air pressure out, so you got a bigger footprint, so you can spread out a little bit more and get in the field sooner. You have that option, but you don't have to put half the load on the machine. You can still keep it as you would if completely aired up tires and stuff like you would on a regular radial tire. I think more and more people are kind of really coming over to that and really starting to see that. Again, it's talking about 100,000 pound combines and 60 and 70,000 pound 4-wheel drives. I mean, that tire situation is going to make all the difference in the world on, if you can't get the horsepower to the ground, it doesn't matter how much horsepower you got. You got to have the right situation, right setup. And I think that IFVF technology is really giving you that opportunity to fine tune that even better than you could with just letting air pressure out on your regular radial tires.
Yeah, no, 100%.
One thing, Casey, on that point, I tell guys, especially your commercial guys or custom guys that are working for other people, primarily that, that's an upsell to your customers as well. Hey, we run the top technology tires. We're going to put less compaction in your fields. As a landowner, you have an upsell there that we're going to be running 20 to 40% less than the guy that's air pressure than the guy that doesn't have these or is not willing to spend that money. And there's an upsell there for your customers if you're dialed in on that and you have your equipment set up and your tire pressure set correctly, as Mike mentioned.
Yep. So I guess we can talk about a little bit about supply and what you guys are seeing out there from that perspective. What we're seeing out on my end, I'm looking at the equipment business side of it. We're getting we're having a lot more machines show up now than we had this time last year. Obviously, we had hardly anything show up this time last year, and now we're getting that flux of stuff's coming in now, and I think we're going to continue to see that to grow throughout the rest of the year. What are you guys seeing on your side as far as supply goes from your manufacturers?
Well, it's interesting that here we are, almost exactly a little over 3 years after COVID, and we're still talking about supply issues.
Yep.
So,
yep.
But no, I'd say it's definitely improved. We're nowhere near to where we were.
Yep.
I think a lot of our tire manufacturers, we saw a big influx there towards the end of the year, with some of the production getting caught up and lead times dropping, and seeing your container rates and shipping costs come down a little bit. So it's getting better, but it's still in some good ways, I guess, to try to be positive about it. It's made guys plan a little bit better. We're having conversations, now with, you mentioned the EOP program, forecasting, getting with guys ahead of the season. Hey, what are you guys going to need? What sizes do we need to bring in? And it's helped with organization and planning a lot better in that regard, just because if you want it, you got to know ahead of time.
Yep.
And you guys are no different either,
yep.
In the equipment world. So.
Yep. And I think I'll talk about this one last point here and we'll wrap it up. But you watch the podcast and on the video side of it, there's a really nice AXON commercial that comes out the front of that, and towards the tail end of that, you're talking about your custom made wheel options your wheel options and what that looks like, and kind of going back to your Hagee situation that you talked about a little bit earlier, having that flexibility for you guys, being able to make those rims and wheels really goes a long ways in making sure that you get those custom applications done, but also just the run the mill stuff that maybe some of these things you can't find in out there because of supply issues, or just because of it's so new that you don't have, the option's not there yet.
Yeah. There's a new video out. I would encourage you guys to go check out it, find it on LinkedIn about CFI. And there's a segment in there of Steve talking about, coming up with solutions and answers for customers. And, we've seen a center pulled out of a John Deere wheel and put into a rim for a case, and different things that we've had to, to make stuff work. But yeah, having some flexibility there, you always have a guy that's going to try something new that, there isn't an option out there to order from Deere or from the factory. That he has an idea about something he wants to try. He wants to lower a machine or raise a machine or widen one out. And we have, if it can be done, we'll certainly try to figure out a way to do it.
Right on. Okay. Mike, you got any last thoughts you want to throw out there before we jump over to Paige?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Clint, anything else you want to put out there?
No, it's been fun, Casey, as always. Appreciate your support and partnership with AXON, and look forward to the upcoming event later this year.
Yeah, me too. And I appreciate you guys too. I love our partnership. I think it's a lot of fun, and we get a lot of good stuff out of it. So, Paige, it's my favorite part of the podcast right here. What's this month's giveaway?
So this month's giveaway, we still have a lot of AXON desk pads hanging around our headquarters. So we're going to do some more AXON desk pads. And I wish I had one here to show you. They're pretty cool. I mean, Clint's got one. Great. If you're watching, you can see what Clint's got, but they're great size. They've got, remind me, Clint, they have our speed rating and load index and different types of tires.
The different tread patterns, the metric to standard conversion table, load and speed index.
Yeah.
All good information.
Yeah. A lot of really helpful tools. So that's your giveaway for the month.
I like it. I like those desk pads. They're very nice.
Yeah, they're nice.
All right, Paige, anything else you want to throw out before we shut down?
I don't think so. I think these guys did a good job covering it. But just to enter the giveaway, you can go ahead and email your name and then your shipping address to marketing@axontire.com. And if you do that, we'll get one sent to you.
Awesome. So check that out.
I tell you what, though, we haven't figured out a good way to send those desk pads yet. They're so awkward to ship because they just don't fit in a box. But
yeah,
we'll get it figured out.
Right on. That'll work. Okay. Well, Paige, Mike, and Clint, I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for all that you do for me over here at the Moving Iron Podcast, and look forward to seeing you guys in Nashville.
Yeah,
thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Casey.
Right on. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. LinkedIn at Moving Iron Podcast, and see the video version of this over on the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel, which is cleverly named the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel. It's really well thought out there, so check that out. If you want to get more information about Moving Iron, go to MovingIronLLC.com. We can find everything Moving Iron related and all the information from the Moving Iron Summit coming up here in Nashville, Tennessee, September 11th through the 13th. It is downtown Hilton there, right on the old strip. So only good things can come from that. So check that out if you want to go down there and have some fun and do some networking. So check that out. So if you want to get a hold of me, go to Moving Iron Podcast at MovingIronPodcast.com, and I will answer whatever question you might have. So get back to you there. So with that, I'm Casey Seymour with Paige, Clint, and Mike. Let's move some iron, folks. Out.
Moving iron in the 21st century.